The full moon in Aries going down on October 20th is the final showdown. It is the battle royale when it comes to relationships. Things are definitely going to get intense, but they're going to change in a very permanent way. And that can be a good thing. If you want to know more, keep watching and I'll explain all about it. What's up, everybody? It's your girl Mel of Divine Feminine Works, and as always, I hope that this video finds you well and in excellent spirits. If you're new here, welcome. If you're returning, welcome back. This channel is everything tarot, astrology, spirituality, and manifestation. So if those are the things you like, if those are the things you love, if those are the things that you want to learn more about, don't forget to hit that subscribe button, as well as that notification bell, so you'll always be notified when I come out with new content. And speaking of content, don't forget to follow me on Instagram at Divine Feminine Works. Every day I've got loads of tarot, astrology, manifestation, and just overall great content. So follow me there so you don't miss any of that. All right, my friends, this is the video all about the full moon in Aries happening on October 20th. It's gonna be intense. And there's a part of me that feels, I don't know, bad, because I feel like the last two videos I've done, Venus conjunct the South Node and the new moon in Libra, like both of those were all about, relationships are going to be hard. There's going to be conflict. And this video is a lot more of the same. As a matter of fact, like I said in the intro, it is the final showdown when it comes to relationships, because there's been this buildup of energy, right? There's been this buildup of conflict. There's been this buildup of things probably from the past, because Mercury is still retrograde in Libra. So there has just been this buildup, and now it's time for a release. What's important to know about this full moon is that it's all about action. It's going down in the sign of Aries, and Aries is all about action, particularly action that's connected to our desires and the things that concern us the most. Aries can sometimes get a bad rep because not only is it a sign that's associated with like violence and fighting, but it's also a selfish sign, meaning that it's very much concerned about the self. And with the full moon going down in this sign, our emotions are going to want to take precedence. But I'm getting a little ahead of myself. Let's step back a little bit and get back to basics. First and foremost, what is the full moon? The full moon is when the sun and the moon are opposite each other. In contrast to the new moon, which is when the sun and the moon are conjunct, they're in the same space. During a full moon, they're at opposite ends of the spectrum. So it creates this sort of tug of war energy. On the one hand, we have our emotions vying for attention. On the other hand, we have our ego and we have our consciousness that's vying for attention. So the two are at odds. Okay. And when we're talking about the full moon in Aries, it means that the moon is going to be in Aries and the sun is in Libra. So this axis, this Aries Libra axis, is the axis of relationships. Aries is all about ourselves. It's all about you. Libra is all about the other relationship. So this is the tug of war that we're dealing with full moons, particularly this one in general. This one specifically, I mean. And again, the major theme here is relationships. And we've had an overload of relationship energy. We have Mercury retrograde in Libra, which is all about relationships. 2 weeks ago, there was the new moon in Libra, which was about creating this new cycle with relationships. And now we have the full moon in Aries, which is about us against them in relationships. And that's very much the theme of this full moon, because again, it's like the battle royale when it comes to relationships. So let's, of course, as always, start with the astrology. All right. So I just mentioned that the sun and the moon are opposite, right? So they're both going to be at 27 degrees. The moon is going to be at 27 degrees Aries. The sun is going to be at 27 degrees Libra. 27 degrees, the 27th degree is the Gemini degree. And what that means, it's really going to be focused on our interactions and our communication. So being that this is going down in the Gemini degree, on the Gemini degree, I should say, be mindful of what you say. Words are going to cut deep. Expect a lot of verbal arguments, a lot of verbal fights, a lot of tug of war when it comes to words. So that is the first thing. The second thing is that the sun is going to be square to Pluto. Actually, the sun and the moon are going to be square to Pluto. So Pluto plays a major part in this particular full moon. And Pluto is all about power and control. So this full moon is going to be very much rooted in power struggles. Someone trying to get ahead, someone trying to wield most of the control within a relationship, who's being treated fairly, who's not, like that's sort of how Pluto plays into all of this. And then we also have Mars conjunct the sun. So everyone is going to be feeling extra, and ego is going to be on a whole other level. There's going to be this energy of selfishness, of wanting things our way. And with, Mars conjunct the sun, Mars is also the ruler of Aries, and the moon being in Aries, it's like in some sort of weird way, it's like our emotions are going to be very self-centered and our ego is going to be very self-centered. So we're going to be all about us, what we need, what we want, how we want the relationship to go. And it's going to make for conflict because people might not agree with that. People might feel stifled. They might feel oppressed by our need to satisfy ourselves during this full moon. And full moons are all about illumination. It's the end of the lunar cycle. It's when things come to a culmination, when things reach their peak. It's when manifestations come to fruition. So not only does this relate to the new moon in Libra that just happened 2 weeks ago, but it also relates to the new moon in Aries, which happened 6 months ago. So you might want to think back to 6 months ago, which would have been March, right? March or April. What transpired at that time with respect to relationships? At the new moon, that's when you're creating something. So perhaps you got into a relationship 6 months ago, or maybe your relationship took a different turn 6 months ago. Now you're going to start to see the culmination of that previous activity from 6 months ago. That's what's going to come to fruition under this full moon. So it's going to be intense. And to add a little extra sprinkling to this, we have Mars. Mars is conjunct to the sun in Libra. Mars in Libra is very passive aggressive. So even though Aries is very combative, headstrong, a fighter, a lot of this power struggle, this power play within this full moon, it's going to be very passive aggressive. And if we're talking about the sun and the moon being at 27 degrees, that being the Gemini degree, it's with words. So people might make sly remarks, they might have a smart mouth, but they're not going to outwardly or overtly say what it is they want, what it is they need, and what they want you to do. So be mindful of that, either receiving it or giving it. So again, there's going to be a lot of tension. There's going to be some strain. There's going to be a lot of power struggles. But Aries is all about taking action. And with Pluto in the mix in this astrology, it's about action that's very finite. It's very definite. It's very permanent. So again, even piggybacking off of my video of Venus conjunct South Node, which I released last week, there's going to be some breakups probably. People may decide that, they come first, their emotions are not being met, and so they decide to drop their relationship. For others, it may be the start of something. It may be the rebirth of a relationship, maybe even one from the past, because again, Mercury is still retrograde in Libra. So there's this remembering and, all of the re's that come with retrograde, particularly exes coming back. Okay. So that's kind of how this is going to play out. Again, it's the final showdown. And then after this, we're done. We move on to Scorpio season, which has a whole other set of issues and things for us to deal with. But this full moon in Aries is really sort of the end point when it comes to this focus on relationships that we've been having for the last couple of months, and definitely within the last couple of weeks. By next week, Mercury is going to station direct. The sun is going to move into Scorpio. And again, we're going to have a whole new set of issues that we're going to be dealing with. But that's pretty much what's going on. Again, you're going to want to have compassion and patience, because everyone is going to be me, what I need, what I want, what I don't want, what I want you to do. And Aries can also be very impulsive. Like, especially with the moon in Aries, it's like you feel something and you just want to act on it right then and there. If you feel like punching someone in the face, you're going to want to do that right then and there. And the key to this is to think before you act. It's going to be hard because, again, there's going to be passive aggressiveness. There's going to be, this egocentric energy. Your emotions are going to be running high and you're just going to want to act out quickly, but think before you act. Try not to be too impulsive, because what you feel right now may definitely not be how things are or how things are going to be in the near future. Okay, so you're going to want to put a cap on it if you can. Also, this may spark you to take action in a different direction, which may be even better for you with respect to relationships. Maybe now you want to take your relationship to the next level. Maybe this buildup of emotions has been a buildup of positive emotions for you. And so now it's time to take your relationship to the next level. So this doesn't have to be all bad, and it's not going to be super dire or super dramatic. But emotions will run high. There will be some power struggles, and people are really going to try to get what they need and get what they want, especially emotionally. So it's going to be interesting. Okay. But again, keep the peace, think before you act. And as always, when it comes to full moons, like I said, it's a tug of war. Particularly this full moon is about us against them, me against our relationship, me against others. On the one hand, you don't want to be a people pleaser, right? But on the other hand, it can't always be about you. Finding a suitable middle ground means that everybody wins. And that's the best way to deal with this energy. Try not to be too combative. Don't lose yourself in a relationship, but also think about others before you take any action, and you should be pretty good. Again, this is the final showdown. After this, we move on to better things. All right. So now that we've gotten the astrology out of the way, let's get into the tarot and see what messages Spirit has for us for this full moon. All right. So we start out with the oracle cards for an overarching message, and then we circle back in with the tarot for some more specific stuff. So without further ado, let's get into it. So this is collective message for the full moon in Aries going down on October 20th. All right, so we've got two. First card out is change. All right, this speaks to the strife, the conflict, the power struggles, all of that stuff that I mentioned in the astrology portion of the video, especially with all of this red here. It's interesting because this full moon is known as the blood moon. And I know there's some sort of agricultural reference to that, but with this going down in the sign of Aries, Aries is the warrior, bloodletting, blood spilling, red being the color associated with Aries. This change is not necessarily comfortable. I mean, that's evident, right? With the fact that this is going to be full of conflict and power struggles, but there's something about this change that's necessary. And this change is also going to be, I don't know why I'm hearing self-induced, if that makes any sense, but it's action oriented that you are going to take yourself. So it's not even like someone is going to provoke you, although for some that may be the case. But by and large, I feel like many of us are going to be very decisive when it comes to taking a particular action with respect to the relevant relationships that this is affecting. Because again, this is all in relevance to wherever this is going down in your chart. So for some, it's romantic relationships. For others, it's friendships. For others, it's family relationships. You get the deal. So, but yeah, this change, it's time. I'm hearing it's time to fly the nest. So for some of you, it's really time for a departure. Some of you have leveled up during this time. With Mercury retrograde in Libra, we've had a lot of time to reflect on relationships, and maybe even past relationships came up that got us thinking about how we presented ourselves in relationships, what we accepted in past relationships. And a lot of us have decided that, how we acted before is not how we want to act in the future, particularly if it means that changing our behaviors are going to get us better relationships, or relationships that really vibe with who we are. So for some, it's like you're leaving a comfort zone is what I'm hearing. You're leaving things that you've known, things that you're familiar with. And this makes sense because Venus is still conjunct the South Node. And like I said in that video, the South Node represents the past. It represents the things that we're comfortable with and the things that we default to when being challenged. And so now with this full moon, with all of this energy centered around Aries, a lot of us are going to be making moves, new moves that may feel uncomfortable to us, but that really help us in terms of our personal development. And then we also have focus. And this is very much indicative of being focused on what it is that we need. It's a very personal focus. It's a very inward focus. And again, that relates back to Mercury retrograde in Libra. Being focused on relationships, but how we show up in relationships, what we need, are if our emotional needs are being met. Okay. And so the focus is very inwardly directed. And that's what's driving, that's the motivating force behind the decisions that many of us will be making with respect to these relationships, whether it's leaving, whether it's taking it to a new level, whether it's having those difficult conversations, sort of breaking past that barrier of passive aggressiveness and being decisive and convicted in what it is that you want to do. But again, that focus is based inward. It's directed inward. All right. I wanted to pull a relationship card because being that all of this is going down with respect to relationships, I mean, that just makes sense, right? Okay. We've got shattered. All right. So you already know, you already get the feeling and the vibe of this reading, right? There are some relationships that will be shattered. Shattering is not always a bad thing, though. I'm getting that for some relationships or some relationship dynamics that you have with certain people, it's breaking things open. You know, sometimes they say that when your heart breaks, it breaks open, which gives you the ability to love even further. And that's kind of what I'm getting with this card. It's like breaking out of the mold, breaking past patterns, shattering those things in relationships that no longer serve us. And that's going to leave room and make way for the things that do serve us and the things that we do want. All right. Shattering also, it comes with it this connotation of being of hurt, right? Because you see this glass could potentially hurt you. Having your heart break is a painful thing. So again, in my previous videos, I talked about it being like purification by fire. And that's sort of the same vibe, but it's like this purification through pain almost. Pain is not always a bad thing because it alerts you to the fact that something may be wrong, something may be amiss. And that's exactly what's going on now. And again, I know this sounds really dire. I know this sounds really crazy. I know it sounds like it's going to be super hard and painful and just, you know, difficult, but that is not necessarily the case. It just means that there's going to be a shift and you're going to feel that shift. All right. So let's get into the tarot and see what specific messages we have. For this full moon in Aries going down on, oh, look at this. First card out is the Sun. So like I said, it's not going to be as painful as I'm making it sound. There is positivity inherent in this pain, in this strife, in this conflict, and it's giving way to something better, essentially, with the Sun here. And with the Sun still being in Libra at this time, with respect to relationships, with respect to how we view relationships. Ultimately, it's for our good. Next, we have the Hermit. So this lets me know that there are going to be some people that are separating. There are going to be some people who are going to be single for a little while because they've decided to take action and get out of their relevant relationship. Now, by single, it doesn't necessarily mean romantic relationships. This could mean friends that you let go, business associates that you let go, taking some quiet time apart from family. to a certain extent, it's also saying that this is for you to take some quiet time regardless. So not even just, breaking apart from people, but taking some quiet time to really think about things, especially before you take action. Like I said, this is with the full moon in Aries, we're going to be feeling impulsive. We're going to be feeling like we want to take action on what we feel right in the moment. And Spirit is like, I need you to calm down first. I need you to sort of sit with it and figure out what you want to do. And with the next card, the Two of Pentacles, this is about balancing, And so while you're weighing out your options, you're going to want to do that separate from the relationship. Don't try to weigh the options with the other person. It's time for you to take some quiet time, really think things through before you take any action. All right. This Two of Pentacles also speaks to Pluto being square the moon and the sun during this full moon. Pluto is in the sign of Capricorn, and Capricorn is very much concerned with tangible things. Could also represent a lot of the things that we hold on to. And Pluto is sort of helping us decide what we want to hold on to right now. This also speaks to the power struggles as well. For some, this power struggle may not be with another person. It may be a power struggle between you and something you've been holding on to. So if some of you suffer from addiction, if some of you have attachments to certain things in your life, all of this may pertain to your relationship to that thing. Does that thing have control over you, or do you have control over that thing? That's what this full moon is going to show you loud and clear. Okay. We've got the Three of Pentacles and we've got the Knight of Pentacles. So there is this change again. There's definitely this change here when it comes to how, for some of us, how we work with other people. And again, I do see a lot of people sort of walking away, but walking away isn't going to be something that happens overnight. For some, I see that you're sort of going to slowly make your exit from this group of people, this thing that you're attached to. But that all comes after a period of reflection. I do see many of you not being impulsive, even though this full moon is going to make you feel like you want to. I do see some of you taking your time in coming to a decision to walk away. Also, because some of you have to set up things elsewhere, whether that be a home, whether that be a job. Some of you have some loose ends to take care of. So even if you wanted to be impulsive, you couldn't, because that means that you may not have a place to live. You may not have a job, any of those things. So again, that's why you really have to sit with this, because there are a lot of moving parts to this relationship that need to be dismantled or that need to be readjusted. So it's really important that you take the time before coming to a decision. Okay, let's get 2 more cards here and then close out this reading. Okay, that's one. I'm not inclined to take these. Let's get one more. All right. Yep, we've got the Eight of Cups, which is all about walking away. Even if you're not walking away, even if you are taking your relationship in a different direction, there are certain things that you need to abandon, certain emotions that you need to abandon. And then finally, we have the Page of Wands. This is the card of taking action, okay? But again, this is like knowing that you have to take action, but not necessarily taking the action yet. It's being decisive on what you need to do and where your passion lies. So yeah, so like I said, I see a lot of you making the decision to leave, making the decision to revamp things after taking some time to think about it. But most importantly, letting go of the emotions that no longer serve you. That shattering of the situation, or that rude awakening when it comes to your attachment to certain things, is to alert you to what is not working. And once you figure out what's not working, drop it and move on. Make sure that you make the proper arrangements in moving on, because again, we don't want to be impulsive with this. We want to make smart and informed decisions that are in our best interest, but without, fucking over anybody else either. And you should be good. It's going to be intense, like I said, but like I said, it's the final showdown. After this, you'll be done. There won't be any more work to do, at least when it pertains to relationships, at least not now. So keep that in mind, keep the faith, and so keep that in mind when moving forward, and you should be just fine. All right, my loves, that has been everything that you need to know about the full moon in Aries going down on October 20th. I sincerely hope, intend, and affirm that you were able to get at least one important message from this reading. Speaking of readings, if you'd like to book a personal reading with me or order an astrology report, those links are in the description box below, so don't forget to check those out. And while you're checking things out, don't forget to check out my website and sign up for my newsletter. Everything that you could possibly want with respect to astrology, tarot, manifestation is contained on the site and in the newsletter, so don't forget to sign up. My loves, as always, everything I do is a labor of love and comes straight from the bottom of my heart. If you feel so inclined and would like to tip me by buying me a coffee, and tips are always greatly appreciated, I'll leave the link to that in the description box as well. Thank you so much for tuning in. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share, and I'll see you next time.